Hello, my name is Matthew Soroka. This is the Top Keys. Today we're talking to Andy Ingram, President, CEO, and founder of the National African American Hotel Ownership Association. Tell me, Andy, you know, I've heard some amazing things of what your organization does.
Sure.
You got to tell me a little bit more in depth, and then you got to tell me your journey, your story, not only in creating this organization, but also your journey in the hotel business.
Absolutely. As president and founder of the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers, better known as NABHOOD, we developed this for one specific reason, and that is to look at the opportunities in the lodging and hotel industry. Growing up in the Caribbean, coming to the United States, understanding tourism, but more importantly, understanding the opportunity that exists in hotel ownership. It's really real estate, and to some degree that you can monetize by nightly rentals. And so our goal when we looked at the industry with a couple of friends, I said, hey, we can do this, guys. And so we got together with a group. Obviously, my partners out of Hoa. At that time, I'd learned that there was an organization of Indian hotel owners, looked at their model and decided that we can create NABHOOD. And in 2000, brought up the idea. 2001, we incorporated, and here we are today. So, three things we do, and that is to get people of color into ownership, to help minorities and other people of color to sell goods and services to the industry. And thirdly, is to create some opportunities in the executive suite. That is, we need some CEOs, we need some presidents, and I'm happy to say we're well on the way. We still have a long way to go.
Okay, great. So that's a fantastic mission, obviously. It's a little overwhelming at times, but what do you do on a day-to-day basis that, you know, expands and helps build that in this organization?
Good question. I spend a lot of my time actually raising capital for different groups, for different deals, understanding public-private partnerships, seeking out high net worth individuals so I can put people together. NAPOD is really an organization that gets involved in structuring and helping people to create a deal similar to what we're doing here today and this week. And that is creating a network where folks can meet each other and, more importantly, begin to exchange the ideas and talk about how you develop partnerships. And that's my daily view, called the daily grind.
So let's take it back a little bit. Many years ago, I'm a little older, you're a little older. Let's take it back when you were younger. What what did you do? What were your interests? And why did you go towards this path of being in the hotel industry?
Well, it's interesting. I spent my early career being a consultant, a lot of times in the marketing and consulting in the tourism industry. I worked for the country of St. Martin, did some work in the French Caribbean, did some work in Anguilla and Jamaica, and I discovered something. Back in 1999, a young colleague and friend, at that time there was a company called FUBU. Today, Damon John, president of FUBU, is on Shark Tank
Right.
and still friends today. But in 1999, when we were going to go to 2000, nobody knew how the computers would react. And Damon John and a couple of his friends said, hey, let's throw a big party. And they asked me, you from one of those funny islands, just why don't you do a deal there? And the short story is, I picked the wrong week. Hotels were closed, and I had to negotiate not for this 3 days I needed, but for the whole week. And I looked at the numbers and they made sense to me. And I came back and I said to my colleagues and friends, we should be in the hotel business.
Okay.
And at that point, we began to investigate. And there's no difference than investing in restaurants, car dealerships. And I also noticed that there were no diversity at that time in the hotel business. And so for me, I saw a great opportunity. And so therefore I pitched Hilton and Marriott. And today, 29 years later, they're still here.
So you originally, when you started your career, you were more in the marketing,
Tourism marketing, yes.
tourism,
Nothing to do with hotels.
nothing to do with hotels.
Nothing to do with hotel ownership and development.
Only the travel part.
The travel part, I looked at the economics of what people spent. My goal was to determine how a destination like St. Martin in the Dutch Caribbean can get more people there. And so when we look at demographics and where the market was, and we discovered that, boy, if they can get more people on a consistent basis, and if you owned a hotel, it would be great to make some money. And for me, that was the catalyst. And then the other thing I noticed, two things. Populations are going to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to have bad times and good times. But at the end of the day, we're in an industry that continues to grow. I mean, think about this hotel that we're in. It's a great hotel, 600 rooms, but in 2027, they're going to implode this and build 1,000 condos here and 1,000 hotel rooms.
Okay.
Who would have thought that, this area would be able to sustain itself like that? So for us in the hotel space, we look at it as an opportunistic, um, and we look at it as a great entry to build generational wealth.
So is there somebody in your either field or maybe a relative, somebody that you knew when you were young, a friend of the family, that kind of like gave you some spark of interest, not only in this industry, but just in business, that made you successful or you wanted to emulate or something that in your past that you're now using today?
You're right. And my grandfather.
What did your grandfather do?
My grandfather was a shopkeeper. He owned a shop in the Bahamas.
What kind of shopkeep?
It is we call it a notion shop. He sold a little of everything.
Oh,
Sold food, even sold alcohol. But it was a small shop that sold rice, beans,
kind of like a
meat,
general store.
like a general store. You're absolutely right. And I used to wonder, as a young kid, really, wow, this is amazing. And my goal was always, how do I build that business to scale? How do I scale it up? Of course, I knew nothing what he did, and I would pretend that he had a car parked in front of the yard all the time. I would sit in the car and pretend I'm a business guy like my grandfather. And then my mother obviously said to me, I don't want you to work in the hotel business. I said, wow, why? And she never told me.
You went against their wishes.
I did. And then I found out as an adult why she didn't want me to work in the hotel industry. And it's very simple. She said to me, in the Bahamas, I didn't see people that looked like us that were managers or owners or executives.
Okay.
She knew the maid, the bellman. For her, there was no future there.
Right.
So either I go to law school or become a priest. Well, being a priest was not an option. Didn't quite work out. But today, God bless her, she passed away. But before she passed, I used to tell her all the time. I said, Mom, we own hotels. And she said, really? But I think for me, watching my grandfather, and today I think about it a lot because I don't know how my grandfather ran a general store without computers, without cell phones. And so today, we have so many tools that it becomes easy to be successful.
Right.
And I think for us, particularly in this industry, and I tell people all the time, this is the greatest industry in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I can build a hotel anywhere in the world. I can work anywhere in the world. The skill sets of creating a hospitable environment for people is what sells. And one of my heroes is Conrad Hilton.
Okay.
When he built that model, his idea from the Statler Hotel was to build something that people would go to. Same thing with Bill Marriott from his first hot shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of, from my grandfather all the way up to, I remember the first time I met Bill Marriott. I mean, I was just awed that a guy that had done so well still was able to communicate with his franchisees and, more important, to people in the industry.
So now that you're a bit older and wiser,
Wiser a lot, hopefully.
Hopefully, you're now giving back the same way that your grandfather has done to you. Maybe he didn't do it on purpose, but you got a lot of education. You got a lot of response and really respect for what he's done. He was teaching you.
He was, that I agree.
Maybe not directly, but by doing that, you emulated some of the things that he's done. now other people are emulating what you've done. And I could see how this association is a way for you to give back, not only to the
No
community, but
question.
to the younger people.
Yeah, as you notice, we have about 40 young people here. And I remember growing up, I emulate what I saw. If I saw success, I want to be successful. I saw this, I saw that. And so I wanted to create a scenario where young people could come and see successful folks from across the hue of different types of people, learn, meet, network. And given an opportunity to travel the world, I tell people, and I heard this today, I can travel the world without leaving my hotel, my immediate community, because there's so many different cultures and races and so forth. And that's the beauty about this industry.
Mhm.
It cuts across every racial, social, economic line.
That's
And
true.
so for me, if young people can experience that and begin to build the sort of relationship, that's going to help them later on in life.
So when you, how old were you when you come to this country?
I came here as a student first. I think I was 21.
Okay.
And
And
then
what made
went
you
to
stay?
school. You know, that's interesting. I initially came here around 18 and growing up in the Bahamas and going to school in Jamaica. I was headed to the University of London and I got to the US and I was amazed at the roads and the opportunity. And hadn't I had gone to boarding school, which was restrictive, I came to US. I said, wow. I called my mom and I said, hey, I want to stay in America and go to school. And she said, no,
Mm.
absolutely not. And after some convincing, I stayed, went to school. But I saw the vast opportunities getting out of school in a society that was wide open.
Mhm.
And I think about it all the time. You know, living in a small society, I remember this now. I grew up in a place called Tarpon Bay, Eleuthera.
Okay.
That's an island off the coast of Nassau in a small village or settlement where the dog went to sleep in the middle of the street and could go to sleep and never move because not a whole lot of cars. I remember having one phone in the whole village.
Mhm.
And so to come here and see all of this at your disposal and the creativity that you can bring to the table. And I think for that, even developing and coming with the idea for the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, it really opened my mind and gave me the opportunity I need to grow.
Okay. Okay.
Opportunistic, if I can use that word, in a wide open field, there was nothing to stop you.
Mm. Okay. What's one of your either life stories, travel, something that you've experienced? You're a hotel owner.
Hmm. I'm an investor.
You're an investor. So you might not see the day-to-day stuff,
Don't want to see the day-to-day stuff. I want
but
to read P&Ls.
but you have seen the experiences. And of course, you dictate how your personnel and staff service people. What's something that's unique, a story that you've seen or heard of that's make this industry so amazing?
Um, a lot of stories, good, bad, and different. But at the end of the day, it's all about hospitality. And I think for people, if you can make people feel that they're spending money for a great experience and see how happy it makes people feel.
Mhm.
We have a young man here walking through a hotel, walking to school one day, met him and introduced him, and they said, what do you want to do? I want to go to school. And I said, wow, where you going? He said, I don't know. I don't know if I can afford it, my parents. And I turned around and I said, hey, let's get this young man an education today, 4 years of school. He's here as a volunteer. And so when I see those sort of stories that we can really make a difference,
Mhm.
given an opportunity that we can, and we do, um, and then watching these young people, and many of the students I've seen here have grown. We have a young lady that started with us as a student um, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. Today, she's a hotel owner.
Okay.
I was at a hotel one day with my grandson. I have two grandsons, and uh, a really young grandson that was born a couple of weeks ago. And I remembered being at a resort last year, 2 years ago, and The lady said, your grandson is, being disruptive. And I said, great. I can leave the property. And a young man came up to me and said, Mr. Ingram, please don't leave. I went to your conference. I don't know if you remember me, but I'm the manager here. And how can I make it different? How can I make a difference? To me, that's memorable.
Right.
We paid forward to create leaders like that who can step in at a moment's notice. The fact that he knew me was irrelevant, but he did not want to see a guest being unhappy. That makes me happy.
So, last particular point, as a successful businessman, what can you give to the audience in terms of how to be successful?
Sure.
How to be greatness?
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, listen,
It's easy, huh?
I think it's easy. I watch a lot of successful people and I learn what they do.
Okay.
And I emulate them. I think there's a couple of things. For most people, if you fall down, so what, get up. I think when you watch successful people, it is never easy. You're going to run into a lot of bumps in the road. But the most important thing you've got to do is not let that deter you. If you run into a door that won't open, try going around and finding another way. And so what I tell people all the time, I also control my environment. So I look to see where I need to be. And if I want to build hotels, I'm going to go where I can find money. I go to a lot of meetings, not as much as I used to go. If I'm looking for finance, I want to go to financial meetings. If I'm looking for partnerships, I want to go where high net worth individuals are. But I tell people all the time, emulate successful people. Figure out how they became successful. And then the other thing you can do is not make some of the mistakes that they've done. And so for me, and this is very important, is that if I'm emulating somebody, I have the roadmap. I can decide, and looking at what they've done, whether I want to do the same thing, or I can tweak it and say, I don't need to go that far left or that far right. This is the sweet spot. And for me, that's been very, very helpful.
Okay. So let's just give a plug to your organization.
Sure. Love to.
How do you get in touch with you?
Sure, it's easy. We're at www.nabhood, NABHOOD.com or .net. We're the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, and our goal is to ensure that people have an opportunity to build, invest, own, and operate hotels. So if you have a question, please drop us an email and visit our website. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. It's been a fantastic meeting.
I appreciate it.
I really love it.
Thanks.
So this is the Top Keys, and I appreciate everybody out there. Have a wonderful journey, just like this gentleman here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.